The Lakers get everyone back on the floor, and they get a big win over the Clippers that showed what can work and where they need work. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Oh, by the way, sometimes on Saturdays and even on holidays, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Locked On Lakers YouTube channel, where over 37,000 people are subscribers. No matter how you do it, you're part of making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network anywhere that you can find. And I'm Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky. About 20 years we've covered the Lakers for the ESPN, the LA Times, and the Athletic. The Lakers, Andy, coming out of the break, it looked like everybody's going to be there. Then it looked like they might not. But in the end, against the Clippers on Friday, all hands on deck. There were a lot of things to like, a lot of things to clean up. But in the end, the Lakers get a big 125-122 win to start the stretch run of the season over the Clippers, who had been playing pretty good basketball coming in. So I, for one, at least thought it was a positive, led by a pretty monster game from Luka.
I think it was a really positive result, and there was a lot in terms of individual performances and the collective energy and activity and spirit of the team. I thought was great. Like, they looked like a team that was really excited to get these 28 games underway and excited to have the entire group together. It's insane that it took 55 games to have a healthy roster for JJ Redick to put forth a starting lineup that was purely by his choice and not dictated by who was available, who wasn't available, who's on a minutes restriction. The starting lineup was Luka, Austin, LeBron, Deandre Ayton, Marcus Smart, the lineup that both Brian and I thought was the logical starting lineup for this team. I know a lot of people have been agitating for, and while at times earlier in the season it looked like JJ might have been looking to get away from it, in reality, he had never had the opportunity to do it even if he wanted to. This is the look that by now it felt like he was going to go with. And like we'll talk about, there was a lot from an individual performance standpoint that was good in this game. It was also a reminder, especially when we break down some of the context, there is still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, look, I mean, the context Andy's referencing, John Collins, who was very effective against the Lakers. Early in the game, he left with a concussion, basically. Concussion, somebody went to get looked at. They didn't bring him back. Kawhi, who was tearing them up, didn't play the last, was it 5 minutes or 4 something or whatever it was. He went with, I believe, an ankle injury.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the Clippers playing.
And Bennedict Mathurin fouled out. And
right.
He was at that point.
That's
right. But
I'm not, that one I'm including less in the good context because, you know, the Lakers had something to do with that.
Right. But the reason it matters, though, is he was the only scorer remaining.
Sure.
And the Clippers still found ways to score.
They are a resourceful team. They play very, very hard, and they've been a good team over the last, you know, basically 2.5, 3 months of the season. They've been quite good. So you know, that's your context. Obviously, the Lakers, given all that, should have won the game. You can argue, I guess, that it was closer than it needed to be. I would argue it was closer than it needed. I just liked the way that they played generally. I think if you look at this as a starting point, and you know, you will start with Luka, red hot from 3-point range, 8 of 14 from 3, got the line 11 times, made 8 of them, 38 points, 6 rebounds, 11 assists. Austin, 9 of 15, 29 points. He had 3 assists, or sorry, 2 steals, 2 steals, 2 assists, and a massive drawn charge with a couple minutes left on Mathurin. That really, JJ Redick called it the play of the game. It was certainly one of the most important ones that happened. Marcus Smart hit a couple clutch shots late after basically not shooting the entire game.
Not basically. He had not taken a shot until the fourth quarter and finished the fourth quarter and the game with 7 points, 3 or 4 in the fourth quarter. He drew a couple shooting fouls in the process. Very, very big fourth quarter for Marcus Smart. Plus, he played some good defense on Kawhi in the second half before Kawhi eventually left the game.
Yep. And Deandre Ayton, Redick called him out on the podium after the game. Very strong game from Ayton.
He closed for the first time in eons.
And it looked like, he did not close the first half, not necessarily because he wasn't playing well, but just because that was the way that the kind of the rotation broke out. But I looked like, maybe they would reach a point where they would either go small or swap that out. But Ayton, his energy was quite good. He finishes with 13 and 7, but was working really hard throughout the game and was big on a lot of buckets down the stretch for the Lakers. So, a lot to like in this game. Let's take a quick break and we'll talk about impressions of the roster in full, because as you noted, Andy, it took until February for the Lakers to have the full roster at their disposal. What did they do with it? We'll tell you next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here, and you're locking in for events that you only get to see on this type of stage every 4 years, and that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense, from medal counts to individual events to finding angles on the sports that you, again, only get to see every 4 years. FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. You will become a curling fanatic all of a sudden, even though you don't get what's going on, how it's scored, the rules, whatever, because FanDuel is going to lock you in from start to finish. The Winter Games are on. There's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game.
Locked On Lakers also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications. It's one of the quickest ways to upgrade your business. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo. That is spelled Quo. And it is the smarter way to run your business communications, because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees full conversation threads, which makes replies faster and more personal. All of these things start to add up, which is why it's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
And Locked On Lakers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Drink. And 5 Hour, they're welcoming you right now. Get ready. Flavor draft for 5 Hour Energy. We are looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best, which ones might be sleepers. The board is set. The flavors are ready. Only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors and something for everyone. I'm drafting peach mango. It's got a ripe peach flavor on the first sip, plus some tropical depth and sweetness from the mango. Just a balanced, perfect blend. Maybe add a little lime to it, get a Frank Ocean vibe going. Mango, peaches, and lime. Sweet Life, I am keeping an eye on. Watermelon and blue raspberry as some sleepers, but peach mango, that's my draftee. Find your favorite new flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon.
Obviously, Andy, one of the things that people were looking at is, okay, you got your big three. They're all here. They're all available. What do you do with them? And, the lineup combinations, both starting, obviously finishing, you got those guys on there, but, it was the big three with the starting lineup to start the first quarter, but it was the big three with Rui Hachimura and Jackson Hayes to finish the half. So, you could see that JJ is conscious of who's matching up where, keeping generally two of those guys on the floor at all times. I didn't count. There may have happened where it was just one, but I think two of those guys were on the floor.
It wasn't often. If it happened,
right.
It was not frequent.
You could see, it looked to me like he was sort of trying to match a little bit of Ayton's minutes with Austin's minutes and Jackson's minutes with Luka's minutes, outside of the starting five. So like you could see the outlines, at least to me, it looked like, of what a rotation could look like.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, just because we've talked about thus far this season, the minutes with Luka and LeBron together, they have not been winning those minutes. They have not been as productive or effective as you would hope with those two guys. And while they did obviously play together and at times as a duo, it felt to me like JJ was trying to find spots where he wouldn't have to use the two of them together and maybe find different units where it could be LeBron and Austin or
yeah, for sure.
Although
they did win the first block that the three of them were on the floor together.
Yeah, they did. But just I am expecting that over the course of this season, while clearly you need to find ways to make it so Luka and LeBron on the court at the same time will work, simply because there's going to be too many times over the course of this season where that's gonna happen. But I think over the course of 48 minutes, because also too, you can just find different floor combinations where you may specifically need LeBron or specifically need Luka, and Austin's kind of the bridge between both of them. But I would imagine that JJ is going to keep looking for the spots where those two can be separated a bit. I thought LeBron and this could be related. With LeBron, it's always hard to read too much into anything specific just because #41, #season 23, #billion miles on the odometer. But I thought after what was a really, really strong first quarter, he lost some steam during the game. He
missed a couple bunnies.
He had some really good passes throughout the game. Like as a playmaker, LeBron played very well. Everywhere else, I thought it was very up and down. I thought his energy began to wane over the course of the game. Again, I don't know how much of that is just where he's at in his career versus the knee soreness that almost prevented him from playing in the first place. I really liked with Deandre Ayton, beyond just the activity that he had on both sides of the ball. And, this is the first time he had played after a few games off and then the All-Star game. And I'd mentioned that I had hoped in a weird way that Ayton's play basically in 2026, which has been very up and down, largely down,
not great,
has been related to that, persistent knee soreness that cost him like 3 of the last 4 games for the All-Star break, and I believe 5 in 2026, that this was related to knee soreness and discomfort and decreased mobility, as opposed to the concerns everyone has that Deandre Ayton will eventually just lose interest in basketball. And he played really well in this game. And one thing I noticed too, like a little wrinkle with Luka and Austin running pick and rolls with Ayton, they were running some delayed action where the screen would be set, but it would take like a beat or two before Ayton started diving. And those sequences, and he had them with both Luka and Austin, worked really well. And I don't know I have no idea if that's something they've been working on specifically or something that happened organically during the game. But in general, I thought Ayton looked really sharp and really synergized with the other guys. And it is important for him to get going if this team is going to reach whatever the ceiling is.
Yeah. And it's not going to be, 18 and 13, most nights he's not going to get enough shots to get that, 10 shots in this game. That is generally speaking going to be probably close to on nights where everybody's available. Realistically, he's not going to get probably many more shots than that. There just aren't that many to go around. LeBron's going to get his 10 to 15 ish. Austin is going to get his 15-ish, possibly more. Luka's going to take 20-ish a game. Those guys absorb possessions, with possessions that end up at the free throw line. So, that's where a lot of it's going to go. And so whether you're Ayton, whether you're Rui Hachimura, shot 4 times in 26 minutes. Luke Kennard, I think, was very effective in this game, at least offensively. You can see he has a tremendous impact, not just as a 3-point shooter, but as a player and a ball mover and a decision maker on the offense. It's just, he also can get picked on defensively. But, these other guys are going to have to kind of make sure that they can stay aggressive and stay confident, only getting most nights 5 to 10 shots. So that's when you watch Ayton, I think, the activity level is really the most important thing. Like, does he look engaged?
Yeah.
Is he, there were possessions where, and I don't always see properly who might have made a mistake here. Is that the correct rotation, is especially in real time? But he's making multiple closes and multiple efforts on a play. Now they'll go back and break down the tape. Hey, you should have turned left and you turned right here. But the fact that he's making on many possessions, making multiple closes, touching somewhere, going and recovering somewhere else, it's all a good sign. I get what everybody, the studio guys for Spectrum Sportsnet were like, meh, kind of disappointed about not the result, but just like some of the stuff you were talking about overall. And we'll see what happens Sunday.
Remember too, Darius Garland did not play in this game on top of it. Like, I know he's not healthy, but I'm just saying in terms of firepower for the Clippers,
no question,
post Harden trade, post Zubac trade, you lose Kawhi in the game, you lose John Collins in the game, Bennedict Mathurin eventually fouls out. Like, that the Lakers were not able to really take control of this game in the fourth quarter. There is an element of underwhelming to that, even if, again, I think the night is I want to make it clear, the night's a positive, and there's a lot that I saw that I liked. There's just, again, it's a reminder, there's a hell of a lot to clean up.
But you got to win along the way. And so we'll see what happens. It's the Lakers open the second half, this stretch run against a very, team, the Clippers team that, I'm not going to call them a very good Clippers team, but a Clippers team that has played significantly better over the last few months, almost no matter who's in the lineup, especially when Kawhi plays, they generally play.
And they were on a back-to-back on top of it.
They played pretty well. You got a very good Boston team on Sunday. Some good tests coming up on the road against Phoenix, against Golden State, against Sacramento, against New Orleans. Just kidding. Those aren't good tests. Those are games you need to blow teams out. So you get a good taste early in the second half of the games against the good teams and the games that you really should walk away with. And hopefully everybody can stay healthy for it. So we obviously will be back after the Boston game to break it all down for you. Locked On Lakers on YouTube, as we're going to hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. Everyone have a great weekend.